Hi, I'm Jen from That Mama Book Nook, and welcome back to my channel. I cannot believe that this is the last TBR video from 2025. Happy December. I unfortunately came down with like a little bit of a cold. It was actually pretty mild, but I lost my voice for the beginning of December. I'm still a tiny bit froggy, but I've been so antsy to try to get this video filmed that I'm just gonna go for it. I was going to share my usual TBR type video for December, but what I'm actually reading is so far off course from my actual TBR. Not because I'm a mood reader, but just because of how I choose my reads and rollover reads and prioritize all the things. I did still create my traditional December TBR so that I could finish, in theory, all my challenges. I will link my ridiculous stack that I posted on my Instagram in the description just in case you are curious and really want to see. But I decided for today that instead I would just kind of chat with you about what I am actually kind of reading and what I'm somewhat more realistically going to at least start in December. So I guess more like a reading update than a true TBR, but there is some TBR in there. Anyway, I have a ton of books in progress, but the ones that I am far enough along in and are definitely going to continue, and most of them hopefully finish in December, and that I have some initial thoughts on are In a Heartbeat by Laura Pavlov. This is the 5th book in her Rosewood River series. It comes out at the time of filming this next Tuesday, the 16th, I think. Even though it's the 5th book, they are all standalone, interconnected romances, so there's no spoilers. I have read a lot of Laura Pavlov over the past 2 years, and she has become this like comfort author for me. I've said that a bunch of times. Her books are comfort books. I tend to rate them in the 4 range. I enjoy them thoroughly. They're not necessarily like, oh my gosh, wow, 5-star vibes, but this book I am absolutely devouring and might be my first 5-star for her. I'm just loving it. This is Ren and Axel's story. They are childhood best friends who had a falling out. Ren is one of the most decorated equestrians in the world, and now she's back in Rosewood River and working at Axel's ranch. There's definitely some tension since they had that falling out, but the more time they spend together, the past and present starts to blur a little bit, and they find their way back to one another. The only problem is Ren has big dreams she wants to chase, so does she remain in this hometown, this small town, or does she go back to her Olympic goals? I'm just loving the horse girl vibes with this one, and Axel and all the kind things he does for her. I'm just, as I said, I'm eating it up. The only thing I'm a tiny bit worried about is at this point in the story, I still don't know what caused their falling out, and Axel doesn't know either, so I'm worried there's going to be that miscommunication trope is going to rear its ugly head, but hopefully, even if it is, because that's not an automatic no for me, there just has to be a really good reason. So fingers crossed that that is the case with this one, because I am really enjoying it. Next up, I'm reading He Sees You When You're Sleeping by Alta Hensley, and then I'm going to roll right into the sequel of He Knows When You're Awake. These are both stalker romances. I believe different couples. I haven't read a ton of stalker romances, like maybe 1 or 2. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it yet, but I'm continuing on. I do like that there is a subtle holiday vibe to it. 'Tis the season. Then I have also started Her Wicked Roots by Tanya Pell. This is a queer retelling of Rappaccini's Daughter, which I have since learned is about a medical researcher who grows poisonous plants. He teaches his daughter how to tend to these plants, and she, in I think just like the constant exposure, becomes immune to the poison, and then she in turn becomes poisonous to others. So possibly a mild spoiler for this. I haven't gotten far enough in to know for sure, but judging by the cover and the fact that it's a retelling, that probably is the synopsis, at least in a general sense. This is about specifically Cordelia, who escapes her oppressive school to go find her brother, who left a little bit beforehand and was writing to her, and then all of a sudden stops writing to her, even though he said, hang tight, I'm gonna come for you, I'm gonna get you out of there, and then he just stopped communicating. So she goes to the last place that she heard from him, but everyone denies knowing him, except one of the kids who lives on the property. Kids can't quite keep a secret, does hint that no, he was here. So then she's lured to a botanist's estate who might be hiding some dark secrets. I'm definitely intrigued so far. It's eerie, it's atmospheric, and I'm curious. Okay, I'm pretty ashamed to admit that I'm pretty sure I started this book last year, never finished it, not because I wasn't liking it, just because I prioritized some other reads. Then one of my book clubs picked it for this year, and I was like, great, I will pick it up again and finally finish it. Read a little bit more, still didn't finish it, so embarrassing, but I am determined to get to it again. I am liking it, and that is Phantasma by Kaylee Smith. I not only want to finish this one, but then I also want to go right into Enchantra, which is the sequel. Phantasma is a deadly contest inside a haunted mansion. Contestants have to face 9 levels to win the ultimate prize, which is a wish. But staying alive is tricky. So we're following Ophelia, who entered Phantasma following her sister. Ophelia happens to be a necromancer, and then while in Phantasma, she gets together with an attractive ghost who claims he can help her win all the challenges. I still need to watch my friend Ashley's video, who did not like this book. I will link it down below if you're curious though. But I always like, even if I'm enjoying something, I always like hearing people's point of view who maybe don't like it. Sometimes they have good points, sometimes it's just different personal preferences. As of now, I am having a great time with this, but I will say any book with trials I am just a sucker for, so this was automatically going to at least pique my interest there. And then Enchantra is a different deadly game, but same kind of idea. A dark romantasy with a sub-game plot. And I believe there is a third book planned too. Then I am reading The Hitchhikers by Chevy Stevens. This is set in the 1970s, which is fun. It's about an older couple who picks up a younger couple. The woman in the couple is pregnant, and they just kind of seem down on their luck. But now the wife in the older couple is starting to question if the younger couple might actually be fugitives. I am also reading Overdue by Stephanie Perkins. I am not loving this one. This is about a couple who have been together for a really long time but never got married, and they don't really know why. So they start questioning things, and they decide it's probably because they've just never dated other people. So they decide to go ahead and date other people for 1 month to get it out of their system. This to me just feels like a cheating trope, even though the couple agreed upon it, and it just feels icky. I am not a DNFer. I am just gonna see where it goes. Then An Unlikely Coven by A.M. Kavita. I am not sure how I feel about the storyline in this one. Joan comes from a long line of powerful witches, but they also are all kind of horrible people. A horrible family, just not great. But then she comes home because there was a crisis where a human was accidentally converted into a witch, and they want to get rid of these loose ends so they being humans, don't think that this is possible for humans to become powerful. But then Joan's best friend hides the human, so she kind of gets tangled all up in it. I feel like the writing could go either way, so I need to get more into this to figure out my feelings about it. The Isle in the Silver Sea by Tasha Suri. This is another one that I'm not fully invested in the plot yet. The magic system is a little bit confusing, but the plot is centered around this tragic love and reincarnation, and and I really want to love it, so I'm hoping the world building kind of clicks soon and then I can just immerse myself in. Then The Night Ends with Fire by KX Song is a failed buddy read on my part with one of my good friends. I don't actually know if she ever finished it either, but I'm not disliking it, and she, my friend, is so understanding, so I'll DM her as I continue on with this one. But basically this is a Mulan retelling. Then Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. I have been reading this book forever. This is a big, complex book. It's a little dry at times, but I don't hate it. There are 3 main point of views, and I'm definitely drawn to 2 of them over the other. Basically, Elantris used to be this beautiful, magical city with powerful, benevolent beings, but then the magic failed and the Elantrians turned into these leper-like creatures who are always starving, no matter if they eat or not. And the city itself turns into ruins. One of our main characters, Prince Raoden, also happens to become stricken by this curse, so he is thrown into Elantris to kind of live out the rest of his time there. His family lies about what happens to him. His what was soon to be new wife, Princess Serene, is told that he died. Now Prince Raoden is trying to help Elantris, and I'm just rooting for him the entire way. There's also this like religious, political aspect as well, and this is kind of where that third point of view ties in. And as I said, that's like the kind of the one that I'm just not as into yet, but I'm sure it is key to the plot. So to be determined how I feel about it by the time I get to the end. Then Scarlet by Alexandra Ripley is the sequel to Gone with the Wind, written obviously many, many years later by a different author than the original, but it does pick up right where Gone with the Wind left off. So if you ever wondered what happened to Scarlet and Rhett afterwards, this is trying to fill in those blanks. I have been reading this since the beginning of the year. This was my January pick for like the longest book on my shelf, which is part of the reason why I am not doing that anymore, because it's just taking me forever to get through these big books, especially if was maybe not in the right mindset to read it. I do want to find some other way to read all the books on my shelf, but that wasn't the right way to go about it. I am surprised that even though this is by a different author, I am finding the writing and tone to be really similar to Gone with the Wind, but I'm also kind of getting the sense that it might have just been better to leave Gone with the Wind as its own thing. Before I started BookTube, I posted a review for Gone with the Wind in my Bookstagram. I liked the book, but obviously there is a lot of problematic elements to it given the time period that it was both written and takes place in. I will link that review down below as well, just if you are curious. And I'm just starting to think that I didn't need to really know what happened to Scarlet and Rhett. I don't think that they necessarily deserve any redemption, and I think that's where this book is heading. It hasn't really happened yet, but I just like Scarlet is like one of the most like loved and hated main characters in all of literature, in my opinion, and I just feel like she probably could have been left there. I will provide full thoughts when I eventually finish, of course, though. The Everking by L.J. Andrews, and then I'm actually going to be diving right into a different book by L.J. Andrews, Broken Souls and Bones, because I was lucky enough to receive an advanced reader copy of her novella When Fate is Cruel that comes out in January, but there are major spoilers for both of these books, so I need to kind of get to that. I'm loving The Everking. I have been in my romantasy era, and I'm just here for it. If you aren't familiar with this one, it is a dark pirate romantasy that also includes a world with sirens and fae and kingdoms and Vikings, revenge and stolen princesses. It's great. And Broken Souls and Bones is another romantasy, not connected, even though the novella is going to contain both. It's going to be kind of split into two as like 2 short stories. When Fate is Cruel is going to be telling the backstories of the 2 main male characters. So as I said, I need to finish both. I am also reading A Killer Getaway by Sienna Sharp. This has been kind of a fun surprise. romance. This one is a thriller, or at least it reads that way so far. It's about Lily, who comes back to work at this resort every summer. They are hinting that something happened tragically to her significant other in a previous summer, and that person is now dead, and Lily comes back every summer to kind of commit revenge, possibly murder each summer, but that has not been fully revealed. So this is just my predictions, and not really a spoiler, like very early on they're hinting at this. The writing is kind of light considering the topic, so I'm having a fun time with it. Sometimes twists and thrillers ruin books for me, so we'll see where it goes, but again, enjoying so far. Best Offer Wins by Marissa Kashino. This one has me kind of chuckling so far. Like, if you have tried to buy a house in the past decade or so, you know how it is. How insanely competitive it is at times, and how it kind of makes you go a little bit crazy trying to deal with all of it. That's exactly what this book is about, but also what happens when the main character goes off the deep end. She finds a house that's going to be going on the market in her absolute dream neighborhood, checks all of her boxes, and she just inserts herself into the sellers' lives. So uncomfortable, but also so hilarious. Then I'm also finishing up We Rip the World Apart by Charlene Carr. This book is really good, but sad. It is about a biracial woman who finds herself pregnant with a child that she's not sure she wants. The man in the relationship is white, and he really struggles to understand what she's going through as far as her identity. But this is also told in multiple timelines and multiple point of views. So it flashes back to when she was a child, and we get her mother's point of view as well. Her mother is a white woman who lost her biracial son to racist violence. It is beautifully written. Sometimes I'm getting jumbled between timelines a little bit because they're almost too similar, but it is still such a thought-provoking read. Then I'm reading Not You Again by Erin LaRosa. I didn't love her previous book, The Backtrack, but so far this one is a little better, but it's still early. I love the concept of all the books of hers that I'm familiar with. It has that magical realism aspect, but in The Backtrack, I found the execution of it to be very repetitive, and Not You Again is literally a time loop, so I'm worried about this one also feeling very repetitive, but so far it's okay. Carly is waking up at her dad's funeral every day, and Adam is regenerating in the middle of an awful fight with his wife, who admits she's been cheating on him. So pretty miserable for both of them to have to live over and over again. They are the only two that seem to know about the time loop, so they team up to break it, but initially they do not like each other. Then I'm still reading Misery by Stephen King. These chapters are so short, and the way that I read, I'm just getting nowhere with this book. It's taking me forever. And don't get me wrong, I love a short chapter. Again, it's just the way that I read that it just takes me longer to actually get through a short chapter book than if it was less number of chapters and they were longer. I also am just not sure if I care that much about this book. I am trying to find 5-star reads in every year that I've been alive, and I got this idea from Kayla from Books and Lala, but I'm struggling with some of the older years, including this one, but this was one of the top books from 1987, so we will see how far I get with this challenge, so to speak. But anyway, back to the book. As I said, I'm not sure how much I care about this book yet, but I still have so much to go that I feel like something else must happen. Basically, an author is, I assume, run off the road by his number one fan, who also happens to be a nurse and kind of a stalker. She then holds him hostage and nurses him back to health, but also kind of tortures him in the process, and she has really big feelings about his newer novels, both his recently written and like still to be published that she gets access to. This is my first Stephen King. I really want to read some more Stephen King, just not sure if this one is going to be it for me. Then the next few I like just started, and I think a lot of them were on my maybe like October TBR, but I'm still gathering thoughts, but liking them in general so far, but just like super briefly. And then there was You by Sophie Cousins. This is getting very mixed reviews. I think because the love interest might be AI. I'm not far enough in to tell how I'm feeling about it. Like I haven't even met the love interest yet, so we'll see. I, Medusa by Iana Gray. This is a Medusa retelling. Medusa is my absolute favorite Greek mythology character, so I'm loving this one so far. Lightbreakers by Asia Gabel. This is a time travel science fiction, which I usually love. Pick Me by Victoria Shade is a rom-com about a ghostwriter who wants to learn how to play pickleball to impress her crush, but she ends up falling for her coach. The Memory Gardener by Meg Donahue. This is a cozy fantasy about a woman who has the power to use flower scents to evoke memories. I already feel like I'm going to love this one. The Lost by Sarah Beth Durst. This is another cozier fantasy, I think. This is about a woman who finds herself in the town of Lost, and you can't leave the town of Lost until you are found. Secret Nights and Northern Lights by Megan Oliver. Pretty sure this is a debut romance. Cute so far, about a woman who is a photographer for a journal, and she gets a big break and gets to travel to Iceland for her work trip, but she ends up being paired with her first love. Love a second chance. The Bookshop Below by Georgia Summers. Another fantasy. This one is about how below the streets of London there is a secret network of magical bookshops that have existed for millennia but are suddenly disappearing. Face Off by Chelsea Curto. This is a hockey romance that some of my Bookstagram friends absolutely raved about. They're obsessed and they insisted that I needed to dive in. I just get so excited about books that I just keep picking up new ones instead of finishing what I'm actually reading. And I shockingly can keep storylines straight, so it never feels like a problem, but I admit that it is chaos. So now I'm going to go through a few that I am starting in December. Most are advanced reader copies, but there are a few book club books in there too. Hurricane Season by Fernanda Melchor. This is one of my in-person book club reads. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really not excited about this one. There is only 7 chapters, so I will probably finish it pretty quickly. But within each chapter, there are no paragraphs. It is just one long text. It's stream of consciousness. It's also a translated work, so I'm not sure how that's going to literally translate. And I just don't know if I have the brain power for this type of book in December, but because it's for my in-person book club, I'm gonna go for it. It was chosen by my book club because it was on the New York Times like best books of the 21st century list. The synopsis is that the witch is dead and the discovery of her corpse by children playing near the irrigation canals propels the whole village into an investigation of how and why this murder occurred. Rumors and suspicions spread. I just don't love an unreliable narrator, and this one is supposed to have several, so I can't imagine this is gonna be my favorite, but again, full thoughts to come. Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. This was the book that my Instagram followers voted for from the Goodreads Choice Awards nominees in historical fiction for me to read and vlog. I have talked about this book several times, and it's actually been on my TBR this year that I just did not get to, but then I talked about it in my prediction video and in my nominee video, and it's going to have its own video just dedicated to reading this book, so I'm not gonna go over it again. But it obviously has been a very big book this year, and I am excited to see what I think about it. Then I'm hoping to read All Eyes on Him by Ileana Zander. This is about Natalie when she sees her best friend leaving the club at night with a handsome stranger. She never expects to find her best friend unconscious at the bus stop the next morning. What happened that night? Only her best friend knows. And until she recovers from her coma, she won't be able to tell her side of the story. Natalie is desperate for answers, and she can't believe her luck when she comes across a photo of the man that left with her friend, except he's on the cover of a magazine being heralded as like the man of the year. This man appears untouchable. He's a millionaire, he's famous, but Natalie suspects he's dangerous. To prove it, she takes up a job as the housekeeper at his mansion. Her plan is simple: watch his every move, gather the evidence, and make him pay. But when she discovers that the last housekeeper went missing, she realizes she's in over her head. This one just came out on December 2nd. The Time Hop Coffee Shop by Phaedra Patrick. Greta Perks was once the shining star of the iconic Maple Gold coffee commercials, the quintessential TV wife and mom. Now, fame has faded, her marriage is unraveling, her teenage daughter is distant, and Greta's once glittering career feels like a long-lost memory. When Greta stumbles upon a mysterious little coffee shop serving a brew like no other, she wishes for a perfect life of those past Maple Gold commercials. Next thing she knows, Greta wakes in the picture-perfect town of Mapleville, where the sun always shines and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and second chances fills the air. Given the chance to step into the life she's always dreamed of, Greta is determined to rewrite her own script. But can life ever be like a coffee commercial? And what will happen when Greta has to choose between perfection and real life with no turning back? I have been loving cozy fantasy lately, so I have high hopes for this one. Then I also hope to start Everyone in the Group Chat Dies by L.M. Chilton. This is the same author of Don't Swipe Right, which I read earlier in the year. Kirby Cornell needs a break from everything. Her crumbling apartment in the sleepy town of Crowhurst, famous for its bucolic countryside and a second-rate serial killer from the 90s. Her dead-end job, her sleazy landlord, her messy roommates, and most of all, the terrible thing they all did. Luckily, that hasn't caught up with her just yet, until an old message on their old group chat pops up. Everyone in the group chat dies. It's the first text that her ex-roommate Esme has sent in ages, but that's not really the weird thing. The really weird thing is Esme died 12 months ago. This book is described as a laugh-out-loud thriller, so I am looking forward to a good twisty time. When the Fireflies Dance by Ayesha Hassan. On the outskirts of Lahore, Pakistan, a large yellow moon hung low in the sky when the men came with dogs and guns and cricket bats in front of his family's small hut on the edge of a looming brick kiln. Lalu's brother was murdered. Unable to escape the memory of that horrible night, Lalu's parents and sister remain trapped, the kiln chimney churning black smoke into the sky as the family slave, brick by brick, to pay off their debts. To rescue them, Lalu must free himself from his past and carve out his own destiny. This was inspired by a true story, which I often love, even if it's heart-wrenching. I also hope to read Good Spirits by B.K. Borison. I have been hearing such good things about this one, and it's pretty much my only holiday read, unless you count the ones I talked about in the beginning. He sees you when you're sleeping and he knows when you're awake. This is like, I feel like my only true holiday read. He's the Ghost of Christmas Past. She's not exactly Scrooge. Ghost of Christmas Past, Nolan Callahan intends to spend this holiday haunting like every other. Get in, get out, return to his otherwise aimless existence as a ghost awaiting his afterlife. But when he is faced with Harriet York, the sweetest assignment he's ever had, he suddenly finds himself wishing for a future. Harriet York has no idea why she's being haunted. She's a good person, or at least she tries to be, a people pleaser to her core. She always does what's expected of her. But as she and Nolan begin to examine her past, they discover that there are threads that bind them together and realize there might be more to moving on than expected. This is a must-read this month for sure. Next, An Arcane Inheritance by Camila Cole. I know we're out of Dark Academia season, but I'm never really out of Dark Academia season. Ellery Morgan is determined to prove that she belongs at Warren University, an Ivy League whose history is deeply linked to occult rumors and dark secrets. But as she settles into her freshman year, something about the ornate building buildings and shadowy paths feels strangely familiar. And with every passing day, the sense of deja vu grows increasingly sinister. Despite all logic, despite all reason, despite all the rules of reality, Ellery knows one thing to be true. She has been here before. And if she can't convince brooding legacy student Hudson Graves to help her remember a past that seems determined to slip through her fingers, as if by some insidious magic, this time she may lose herself for good. Then I also hope to read The List of Suspicious Things by Jenny Godfrey. 12-year-old Miv is panicking. Life has been complicated since her mom got sick, and now her dad is talking about wanting to move their family out of the town that she has lived her whole life in because of the murders. Young women are dying, everyone is afraid, and no one knows who the culprit might be. But as far as Miv is concerned, leaving Yorkshire and her best friend Sharon simply isn't an option, no matter the dangers lurking round their way, or the strangeness at home that started the day her mom stopped talking. Perhaps if she could solve the case of the disappearing women, they could stay after all. So Miv and Sharon decide to make a list of all the suspicious people and things on the street. People they know, people they don't, but their search for the truth reveals more secrets within their neighborhood, within their families, and between each other than they ever thought possible. What if the real mystery Miv needs to solve is much closer to home? Love a good list. Then these last four are out on January 6th. So I'm going to try and squeeze them in at the end of the month. First up, The Storm by Rachel Hawkins. St. Medard's Bay, Alabama is famous for three things: the deadly hurricanes that regularly sweep through their town, the Rosalie Inn, a century-old hotel that has survived every one of those hurricanes, and Low Bailey, the local girl infamously accused of the murder of her lover, political scion Landon Fitzroy, during Hurricane Marie in 1984. When Geneva Corliss, the current owner of the Rosalie Inn, hears a writer is coming to town to research the crime that put St. Medard's Bay on the map, she's less interested in solving a whodunit than she is about how a successful true crime book might help the struggling inn's bottom line. But to her surprise, August Fletcher doesn't come to St. Medard's Bay alone. With him is none other than Low Bailey herself. Lo says that she's returned to her hometown to clear her name once and for all. But the closer that Geneva gets to both Lo and August, the more she wonders if Lo is actually back to settle the score. Then the other one out on January 6th is Janae Sanders' Second Time Around by LaQuette. Wary of love after divorce, Janae Sanders focuses on the best things in her life, her son James, and her best friends in the Savvy, Sexy, and Singles Club. As for romance, not today, Satan. That is until high school heartthrob Adam Henderson crashes back into her life at their 20-year reunion. Sparks fly, but when Janae considers dating again, the new superintendent of James's school district slashes his beloved arts program. Instead of getting her groove back, Janae gets her protest on. Returning home after 20 years, Adam jumps at the chance to reacquaint himself with Janae, the one who got away. But he nearly reaches his limit, juggling a meddling father, school politics, and, unbeknownst to him, Janae's ire. If he can't get the head of the PTA off his back after cutting programs that were costing the district money, his debut role as superintendent and his love life hang in the balance. When a school board meeting is called and they both realize they've been dating the enemy, Janae gives Adam two choices: restore the program or lose her. Adam proposes a third option: one weekend at his cabin to talk it out, funding the arts and old feelings too. When her girls cheer her on, Janae must decide if she's willing to risk it all. Armed with sass, sarcasm, and suitcases full of emotional baggage, Janae and Adam discover that sometimes love shows up in the most infuriating and unexpectedly sexy ways. Last two, The Odds of You by Kate Dramas. Sage Collin knows a thing or two about odds. A year ago, she was a data analyst until she burned it all down town to pursue her dream of becoming an author. One whirlwind bestseller and a struggling second book later, and Sage isn't sure she'll ever write a novel again. But then an accidental encounter with an irritating passenger on the flight to Comic-Con leaves Sage in an untested position. That passenger is Theo Sharp, a breakout actor on the cusp of fame. And unfortunately, paparazzi have mistaken her for his girlfriend. Armed with signature British charm and a smile that could tame oceans, Theo wears fame like a well-fit coat, though Sage can tell there's something deeper held in his eyes. But his fans are too involved in the drama. The pressure to deliver the next bestseller is on, and Sage and Theo both agree that there's nothing between them. They don't have to acknowledge that saying it doesn't make it true. When Sage decides to flee to Scotland to clear her head and write her novel, she expects to find fresh air and the stillness to think. What she doesn't expect is for Theo Sharp to come back into her life, and how he may be the greatest miscalculation of all. And lastly, The Swan's Daughter by Roshani Chokshi. The tagline is a possibly doomed love story. Prince Eris knows that marriage means murder. Thanks to a poorly worded wish to a sea witch, all one needs to rule the Isle of Malice is the heart and the hand of the kingdom's heir. Historically, this has been construed quite literally. Thus, Eris expects that the day after his marriage and murder, he will wake up as a sentient tree alongside the rest of his predecessors. His only chance at a long life is finding true and lasting love. When Eris's parents announce a tournament of brides to compete for his hand and heart, a slew of eligible and lovely and possibly murderous bachelorettes make their way to Wraith Castle. Amidst glittering balls in caves, strolls through menageries of daydream trees and pearl crocodiles, tea time on glass boats, and kisses that leave his head spinning, Eris cannot tell who is here for the love of him or lust of power until he meets Demelza. As a Veritas swan, Demelza's songs ring out the truth. Forced into hiding, Demelza strikes a deal. Eris will provide her with safekeeping in exchange for her truth-telling song to sort through his potential brides. While Eris is used to dodging death threats and Demelza is accustomed to fighting for her voice to be heard, to survive the tournament of brides requires a different kind of bravery. And perhaps the bravest thing one can do is not merely protect one's life, but find the courage to chase one worth living. Will I finish over 30 books this month when my average is about 8 to 12, 12 being like on a good month, and it's a crazy busy season? Probably not. Am I going to have fun trying? Absolutely. Let me know in the comments what you are reading in December, especially if we have any of the same. I love a buddy read, even though I'm terrible at them. Also, let me know what you thought of this style of video versus my traditional TBR styles of video. It's really hard to talk about books that you haven't read yet, so giving a little, big reading update with a little TBR mixed in felt fun and more chatty, but I'm curious about your thoughts as well, or if you have a preference. If you are not feeling super chatty but you just want to let me know that you were here, go ahead and leave me a snowflake emoji for December, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!